Well, good morning, everyone. Yet again, our green screen is having some issues, so it never
I think you're
fails.
hitting the wrong button.
I didn't hit anything. I didn't touch anything.
There.
I promise. I didn't touch a thing.
All right. You got it. Okay. Well, I'll fix it. I'll
yeah.
fix it afterwards.
Yeah, okay.
My fault.
So I
My
literally was like sitting here thinking, oh, this is so great because I think that, we're not going to have any issues this morning. And then, sure enough, but it's fine. Welcome everyone to Icon Online. It's so great to have you all here. Happy Sunday. I hope that everyone had a good weekend, that you got some time to rest. And hang out with your people and do some fun things. And so, yeah, just glad to see all of you in the chat this morning. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. So glad that you all are here. Hello to everyone at the watch party at Casa Maria here in Kyle. So super excited to have that going on today. Okay, so we're gonna launch into our this morning's worship and message here in just a second. Today we're finishing up our Learning to Love series where we've been talking about relationships. So if you missed any of the past weeks, I would highly encourage you to go back and watch them. We've been having some really great conversations with some folks who are a part of our faith community here and just getting some insights and perspectives from a variety of different people, and it's just been really helpful. I have learned a lot. And I hope that you all have learned a lot too. So I'm really looking forward to wrapping that up this week. We're going to be talking about parenting. So it was a fantastic discussion, and I can't wait for you guys to get to hear from the folks that we have on today. Just a couple of things before we do that. First of all, if you have not yet had a chance to fill out a Connect card, we would encourage you to do so. That is just really, it's just a way for us to have your information so that we can keep you informed about different events we have coming up, new series we have coming up, when we have in-person services, anything that you might need to know about what's happening around Icon. That's just a great way for you to be able to stay informed and stay connected. And then secondly, for everyone who continues to faithfully and generously give toward Icon, thank you so much. I just, we all know that that's how churches function, is it's all of us coming together, sharing our resources, giving what we're able so that the mission of the church can continue. So thank you to all of you. If you would like to give this morning, you can just click on the give button in the chat and it will take you to a place where you can do that. And as usual, we want you to know that, we really do believe that the church exists to be a blessing and a benefit, both to our community at large and to our faith community here at Icon. So if you find yourself today in a place where you have some needs, maybe money is tight, maybe there's an unexpected expense, maybe you could just use a little bit of help this month to get through, we would love to be able to partner with you. And so if you just send us an email, info@iconchurch.com, and then we can contact you and we can kind of assess that need and see in what ways that we can come alongside you and partner with you to meet those needs. So we are going to go ahead and, good morning, Robin. You're so sweet. She said, good morning, my beautiful Pastor Kelly. You're so sweet, Robin. I love you and your family and miss you so much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go into a time of worship with Arlene, and then we'll go into our conversation. I will tell you that it is a bit longer again this morning, just because when you've got multiple people sharing perspectives, and it just tends to go a little long. So, and I also want to say to those of you who maybe for you that the topic of parenting or motherhood or fatherhood, maybe that's kind of painful for you. For whatever reason, maybe, you have been on a journey of trying to build your family and it just hasn't been happening for you in the way that you had hoped. And if a message like this, talking about parenting and being a mom, being a dad, like if that is a hard thing for you and if you feel like that would be too painful, not that you need my permission, but I just want to let you know that is okay if you turn this off and you choose to not listen in today. That is absolutely okay. So I just wanted to kind of give that at the front just so that you could be made aware. But for the rest of us who decide to tune in today and to listen, just grab your paper and your pen or your phone to take some notes today, because these folks had some really great insight. So let's go ahead and come together for a time of worship to kind of recenter, to take some deep breaths, to remind ourselves of our belovedness and of God's goodness, and to rest in that. And then we will go into the conversation, and then at the end we will come back here just for some final words. I also have some resources that we want to share with you when it comes to parenting. So let's go ahead and join together in worship, and then we will see you back here in a little bit.
Oh, we look to the sun, set our eyes on a Savior, see the image of love, sing His praises forever. Oh, we look to the sun, yes. Oh, we look to the sun. Salvation tearing through the dead of night. See the kingdom burst into color at the speed of light. And freedom shaking up the atmosphere as the shadows fade into nothing as the day appears. Beyond the skies above, love reaching out for us, the everlasting one, Jesus our God. Oh, we look to the sun, set our eyes on the Savior, see the image of love, sing His praises forever. The sun, yeah. Creation waking up to kingdom come. See the hope of heaven shining like the rising sun. Now forever lifted up from death to life. There's no fear in love and no darkness in His endless light. Beyond the skies above, love reaching out for us, the everlasting one, Jesus our God. Oh, we look to the sun, set our eyes on the Savior, see the image of love, sing His praises forever. Oh, we look to the sun. Oh, we look to the sun. Yes, beyond the skies above, love reaching out for us, the everlasting one, Jesus our God. Beyond the skies above, love reaching out for us, the everlasting one, Jesus our God. Oh, we look to the sun, yeah. Oh, we look to the sun. Oh, yes. Oh, we look to the sun. Set our eyes on our Savior. See the image of love. Sing His praises forever. Oh, we look to the sun. Oh, yes. Oh, we look to the sun. Oh, yes.
Welcome everyone to Icon Online. I'm so glad that you're all here with us. We are wrapping up our Learning to Love series today, and we are talking about parenting. So to all of you watching today who are parents, to those of you who have a desire to become a parent someday, and even for those of you that maybe you don't have kids and you honestly don't have any desire to have kids, that is perfectly okay. Hopefully today, the things that we're talking about, I think some of the things that we talk about can kind of bleed over into other areas of our life too. So today with me, we have Pastor Amanda, our fabulous Next Gen pastor, and then we have the fabulous Mark and Jenny Wisty. And we're just going to have a conversation today about all things parenting. So as we launch into today, I wonder if you guys could each just take turns just sharing a little bit of a snapshot of your family, kind of what your family looks like, how many kids you have, who you're parenting, that sort of thing.
Kelly, why don't you start?
Oh, okay. I can start. So Dan and I, my husband Dan and I, we have 4 kiddos. They are ages 16, 14, 11, and 6. So we got a full house over here. So we're navigating raising teens, and we're still in the early grade school department too. So it's like all across the gamut we have going on in our house. So
Nice. I'll go next. I am a single parent, and I am currently parenting my 2 nieces. I have previously been a foster parent. And then the interesting thing about the parenting I'm doing now is I'm not actually a foster parent. It's actually a court agreement, and I have custody of the girls. And so I have 2 nieces, and they are 13 in middle school and 17 in high school, ready for college.
We're Mark and Jenny Wisty. We have one daughter who's 6 years old, Anna, and I guess like many people, we started with a fur baby. We got Dexter right after we got married, and he has taken the begrudging role of the older brother.
Gotta love those fur babies. We have like a lot of fur babies in this house. It's like a zoo around here. So yes, love the fur babies.
We have 0. We are no pets.
There are some times where I'm like, why do we have all these animals again? I don't know. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and dive right into these questions so we can get this conversation going. And I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your insights and your perspectives. And I think I know this is going to be helpful for everyone watching, but I also feel like this is going to be really helpful for me too, selfishly. So I'm really looking forward to it. So, okay, to start us off, because everyone's kind of on their own journey when it comes to deciding whether or not they want to parent. And I think sometimes it's almost like we assume that that's something that everybody wants. We just assume that that's just naturally kind of the order of things as people progress in their life. That's not always the case. Not everybody has a desire to be a parent, and that's totally okay. But I would like to hear for each of you, what are some things that led to you deciding that you wanted to be a parent?
I would just like to go on the record and say that up until 2 years ago, I was the person who said, I don't want children of my own. I don't want to do I was fostering with the hopes of adopting. And then, when she had to move on to a different home, I was like, no, man, I'm okay. I'm just going to take some time to be alone. And then I was like, maybe I'll foster again. But now being back in it, I will say, I admire parents. I admire parents from all walks of life. Speaking as a single parent, it is some of the hardest, most holy work. It really is. There are days where I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad I signed up for this. And there are other times that I'm like, this was not in the brochure. I mean, I'm here, I'm in it, but this was not in the brochure. You know,
They don't give you a manual. Like they
No,
just don't.
no.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, but my desire to become a parent to my nieces was really because I just absolutely loved it. I've loved them since they were born, and I've always I've always been the aunt that is the fun aunt, and I want to take care of them, and I love everything about them, and I can't imagine they were in a situation where they weren't sure kind of what family dynamic was going to look like, and I was able to step in and take care, provide them with a safe place. And now I just can't imagine. I mean, this past year and a half that they've been here with me has just been a phenomenal experience, and I love that I get to parent them, and I love that I get to coach them and mentor them and lead them into their next steps. So yeah, it was kind of just fell in my lap in some of the weirdest, most unseen ways before, but I don't regret it.
That's so great. And it's so beautiful that you said yes. And yeah, I just think it's just a really beautiful family story that you have. Yeah. How about you, Mark and Jenny?
Well, I've always, since I was a kid, was looking forward to the day when I could go through this life with a child that I could help prepare for the trauma and difficulty of life, and also the joys of life, and make the joys possible for them and share in them. And I think Jenny will say also to be able to see the world through their eyes, and that has really been true. When you've got an exploring little kid, they see stuff you didn't. Sometimes it's not edible, but they could say they'll spend 20 minutes staring at a dragonfly. Yeah. Like, I've seen a million dragonflies. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. That really is pretty. But at the same time, I knew as a kid, I had to make massive changes in my life before I could even let myself marry, much less have so I ended up spending quite a lot of time with a couple who turned out to be second parents for me. Like they were mentoring me about what it meant. Like after college, moved in with them so that they could teach me how to be a dad or a human being. So that was something that was necessary before I could make that step.
Yeah. Yep. I love that you said that, because I think there is a level of preparedness that I think, there's just things that we will encounter as a parent that it's really helpful before we reach that stage, before we become a parent, that we're able to work some things out and learn some things and grow. And, that's all so important. Yeah.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, I have cerebral palsy, and today has really kicked me in the butt. So it's going to be a day when you get to hear a lot from the quiet guy of the couple. It's good. I mean, I usually do a lot of commenting, and I'm around, and everybody's heard from me. You'll hear from me some this evening, but you'll actually get to. Usually, if I get a little quieter, that makes some space for Mark, who is a very quiet person, to open up and share. And there's a lot of really great insight in there. So I will say, I was thinking about this question, and I think I came to the conclusion that wanting to be a parent is how God made me, because I just couldn't imagine my life without kids. And it just seemed to always be a part of me. But it's also made me appreciate and admire those who, for whom it's not a part of who they are, because there's a lot of stuff in life I don't get done because I'm a parent, because I'm a spouse and a parent. And I think that those people who are who see themselves as single or as couples without kids, maybe there's more stuff they get done that I wouldn't. And I know that's not the same experience for all parents, but for me, this marriage and this parenthood it's kind of the one main project in my life. Yeah. And I'm okay with it being the one. I'm not just okay, it's like it's my choice that it's the one main project. So there's a limited amount of energy available to me, and this is really how I want to spend it. Yeah. Developing a strong relationship with Mark and with Anna. I'm good with that being about all I can do. Yeah. That's cool with me. So, but I think it's great to see other people dedicate their lives to other things, and I'm glad they do, because like they discover planets and develop businesses, and they do lots of really cool stuff. And I can see how choosing not to parent, or just realizing that it's not something that you want, a desire that you have, does free up time and energy to pursue other dreams. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But this is my dream, and I'm cool with it. I'm just going to dream it for a minute.
I love it. I love it.
She's always been the adult in the room who would go over and play with the kids.
Aww. Yeah. I love it. I love how you said you just think it's how God made you, that it was just something that was, just inherently part of who you were, that wanted to be a parent. And I think that's really, really beautiful.
So Kelly, you need to answer it now.
Sure.
I mean, you were in a 4, so we really want to hear from you during this.
Oh, I think I kind of feel the same. Mark, I kind of feel the same way you do, where I can't really remember a time in my life where I didn't want to be a mom. And again, I know this is not, Jenny, I'm glad you spent some time talking about that, because I also want to be clear that it is so normal and okay if you don't have that desire. I don't want anyone to feel like they're abnormal because of that, because we can sometimes make people feel that way, especially in the church. And so I just want to be very clear on that. But for me, I can't really remember a time, I remember I would dress up for school when we do career day. Did you guys ever do career day at school when you were younger? And you're supposed to dress up what you wanted to be when you grew up. And almost every time I would bring my baby doll and dress up like a mom, because that was just what I want. That's just something that I really, really wanted to do. So I can't really remember a time when I didn't. I don't think I had a clue what parenting was going to require of me or do within me. I don't think I had any idea what that was actually going to look like, but yeah, that it's always been a part of what I've wanted. So yeah. Okay. So obviously, go ahead, Amanda, go ahead.
I was going to say, because I have been that person in Christian circles, just going back to what you said, I have been that person in Christian circles where, people are always asking you oh, well, when are you going to get married and have kids? And it's really awkward to be the single person and be I don't have any plans for that in the near future. And it's not in a selfish, I don't want kids because I want to be free, but it's this understanding that I want to, support other families and in parenting. I want to be a babysitter. I want to be a mentor. I want to be able to work late hours at the Boys and Girls Club. I want to be able to, travel and volunteer, for different organizations and still stay connected with, I think being a coach or a leader, a teacher, a mentor for kids has always been a desire for my, in my heart. And especially as a foster parent, wanting to give kids a safe place to land. And realizing that I didn't have to be a full-time parent to do that. And I felt really fulfilled, even back then, just being able to be a youth pastor, a kids pastor, volunteering at school, still being involved in kids' life, but really being a part of just a circle of influence without having, just one with me 24/7. And, for a while growing up in Christian circles, it was very much well, why wouldn't you want to? And why wouldn't you do that? Mm-hmm. It was really just that was not what was fulfilling for me at the moment in
Yeah.
what I felt God was leading me to do. And it didn't make it wrong and it didn't make it selfish. It just
Yep.
was a season of life that I was in. And, you know, I will say, if circumstances hadn't been what they were, if, you know, with my nieces, at the beginning of 2020, they became houseless. And so, you know, and their mom was trying to figure out what to do. And it just became a situation where it was like, well, you know, what do we, you know, how do we fix this? And I was like, well, I can't promise I'm going to be a great parent, but I will absolutely love them, and I will be the best aunt and coach, and I will take all the things that I have learned from serving other parents and from working with other parents, and I will take all the things I learned when I was in foster training, and I will use that to help me. And, you know, it's not a thing where it's like, oh man, I wish I had kids when I was younger, but I'm grateful that I had opportunities when I was younger to kind of invest in more than just, you know, a life at home, but invest in a variety of lives and be the person that people could call, you know, at like 8 o'clock in the evening when something goes wrong and they need an emergency babysitter, you know. And so there are benefits, and I think there has been a lot of stigma around single childless people in Christian circles, and I'm looking forward to, you know, continue to make space for that to kind of fall to the wayside, because there's no room for that at the table.
Yes. No, I love that. And I love, like, you also bring with you, like, you've been involved in some type of kids, youth, young adult ministry for decades. And so you bring this wealth of knowledge and experience to the table that, you know, it's like some people they're like, well, if you're not a parent, you can't really, you know, and it's like, oh, no. Like, I think there are people who aren't parents, but you can know a heck of a lot about what it looks like to take care of kids and to love kids well. And I think you bring so much of that. You know, I think I'm excited today because you're also bringing, to hear what you have to say, because you are bringing that too, you know, not just your parenting experience, but decades of working with kids and teens. And, you know, so okay. So obviously we all know that as much as we all love parenting our kids, we love, you know, loving them. We love, it's such an honor and it's great. Like Mark talked about, we get to share in their joy, like, but also we have to acknowledge that parenting is not a cakewalk and it has its fair share of challenges. And so one thing I want to do in these conversations at this whole series is I just want to help people feel like they're not alone and feel normal. And so I wonder if you guys could share, I know there's probably been many challenges for all of us, but maybe if we could each just share like one challenge that we have faced, one thing that's been difficult for us when it comes to parenting.
I want to start this one. I don't think I struggle when I think about me as a parent. It's not that I struggle with the things that I need to do for my child. I struggle finding time for my marriage, and I struggle even more finding time for myself. That's just mine. That is the hardest thing, and I have had to really, really intentionally work at that, because after about 4 years of putting as much of my energy as I could toward my child and then toward Mark, I was just finding that there wasn't anything left. And that the part of me that was me was like it was getting smaller. Wow. And I think maybe being an Enneagram 9 has something to do with that. For those of you who are interested in knowing anything about the Enneagram, I really had to work hard at putting some boundaries up and creating a space that was just for me. And I'm still working at that. I think, you know, I really tip my hat to parents who are able to maintain that
Mm-hmm.
identity, their own identity. Like they have their own identity, and if they're in a partnership, they've got that partnership, and those circles are really important.
Yeah.
So that's something I need to keep in mind. And those of you who know me well, please hold me accountable for carving that space out for myself.
Yeah. That's so good. I'm so glad you said that. I think all parents can probably relate to. It's easy to lose yourself in that. And yeah.
I think in years 1 and 2, it's lack of sleep.
Yes.
Just there's no sleep. You just get used to not sleeping and being
Yes.
incoherent all day.
Yes.
Later on, it's patience. It's 7:30 a.m. You're late for work, and there is poop all over the road.
It's so true.
But that's turned out to be good practice for working in my lab at work. Walk in and you did what? Of course it broke. Deep breath.
Yes.
I'm going to respond, not react. I'm going to respond, not react.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Those are challenging times for sure. Amanda, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, I think some of the biggest struggles that I have in parenting is being a single parent. I don't have a partner to tag team things with. I don't have someone who can tap out and take the girls somewhere while I just decompress from a busy week or a stressful situation. I know both of you know this, but I'll just tell the public. There was actually last month, there was a time where everything was just we had just spent so much time together, and tensions were rising because people weren't getting their way, and we're in the process of learning managing our emotions with the girls, and they were just so stressed out. And I remember reaching out to a family member and asking them, hey, can the girls go stay the night with you? And they were like, yes. And then the day that I was like, hey, I'm getting ready to pick the girls up from school and I'm going to take them, to your house. And that person was like, oh, I actually can't. I'm not feeling really good at all. And I was just like, as a single parent, just the disappointment and the stress of oh no, I had talked to my therapist and I told her I was going to go to the movies by myself and I was going to go do this and I was going to, go do all these things. And now I don't get any space for myself. And I told the girls, I was like, I just need a break. And I walked to the park and I laid on a tire swing and I cried for 20 minutes. Let it all out. And I was just but it's I don't want to fall apart. I don't want them to feel bad because they didn't do anything wrong. It's just, I don't have a backup.
Yeah.
I don't have, someone when I'm the taskmaster of hey, when we get home, I need you to do your homework and no TV until after you've done your homework. And I need to get your laundry by the door. All those things, I don't have anybody else backing me up. Or if they disagree, being in my corner, it's just, so check on your single friends because most days we are not okay.
Yes. Well, and I think that's a great opportunity to, I think, as a church, church, listen up. This is where it's really important that we come alongside the single parents in our communities, because I think, when you don't have that partner that you can tap out and say, okay, your turn. I think that's a really great opportunity for us as the church to step in and say, let me be your tap out buddy. When you need to tap out, we can offer that. And I think it's just such a good reminder, you're bringing that perspective that it's really easy when you're partnered with someone you just forget how hard it is for someone who's doing it on their own, So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that to everyone's attention. And yeah. Oh, I think I'll answer this one too. I was thinking about this earlier and I think there's been so many. I was literally, I was thinking about, I'm there's this challenge and this challenge. There's so many, But the one that's pretty current for me, I'll kind of address that because it's like really fresh in my brain. One of the biggest challenges I'm facing lately is realizing how much of an impact my undealt with trauma and issues has on my children, and how like there's been a couple of instances recently where I hurt my kid, and it was because of things that are trauma that is still there that I'm still working through, and had to own it and apologize and like sit with that. And but it's a challenge because I think it's easy sometimes once we have kids, like we get in this, like you said, Jenny, we stop making space to care for ourselves because the demands of parenting is so high when it comes to the time that it requires of us, and so it's really easy to say, well, I don't have time to do therapy. I don't have time to take care of myself, and I think, and I realize I'm speaking from a very privileged position here, that I do have a partner and I do have the means to be able to do those things. But I'm just realizing lately even more, like I have to take care of my own issues so that I pass on as little. I mean, we are all imperfect people, so we're going to pass some of that stuff on to our kids just because we're human. But I think if we can, I'm realizing like I really have to address things so I can pass on as little of that, or that my kids aren't feeling the ramifications of my undealt with issues, and that has been a really big challenge for me lately.
I actually had a situation very like we also same everybody in that boat, right? But the other day, so if anybody who's been around me knows me, I love to plan. I'm a planner. I live by a calendar. I live by a schedule. Like I like order.
Even on vacation.
Even on vacation, I will map out directions ahead of time. I will just do like I've got a plan in place, and that's just how my life works. How my life has predominantly worked since I've been on my own after 18 years old. But the other week, actually, one of the girls was like, I want to ask you a question. I'm really afraid to ask it. And she wanted to ask if she could add something to the schedule. And she wanted to get together with her coworkers to go out to dinner. And I was like, well, look at the calendar. And if there's an open date, then the answer is yes. And she's like, I know you don't like it when we mess with your schedule. And I was like, look, man. And I was like, I know it's rough. I'm really bad. And I had to look at her and be like, I just need you to know that is my issue. I have lived by my own schedule in my own way for the past 20 years of my life. And I am just now learning how to include 2 more people into my schedule.
Yeah.
And so I told her, don't be afraid to ask, please ask. And if I can make it happen, I will make it happen. If I can't, we'll have to compromise or we'll have to reschedule something. But I was like, I need to tell her. And I told her, my issue is not your issue. You do not have to take this with you. And it just made the conversation a lot better. But I think it is so true. Like we very easily, not even like real deep trauma, but just like our personalities can clash with our kids sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
That you are, I love that you're real and open with your mistakes. Like it helps Anna a ton. Like I say to her, everybody makes mistakes. But when I say, oops, look what I just did. I just dropped that whole thing on the floor. Or I just forgot that I made you a promise about what we were going to have for dinner tonight. Like I'm making mistakes all day, all through. Look, I just made another one. Like everybody makes mistakes.
It's so powerful when we can apologize to our kids. Like I just think we oftentimes feel this pressure as a parent that we're supposed to have it all together, or we feel like if we mess up and if we admit that it was a mistake, we feel like that somehow like invalidates our ability to parent, or it reflects poorly on us as a parent, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we just forget how powerful it is for our kids to hear us say, I really screwed up and that was wrong and I hurt you. And I mean, that I like looking at my kid and being like, I screwed up. I hurt you and that was wrong. And to do it in a way that didn't put any onus on that kid to have to make me feel better about it. Like it was like, no, like I'm not going to come to them all. And sometimes I get a little teary. Like if I hurt them or I'm genuinely sorry. Sometimes I will get a little more, but I try to not, because I don't want them to then feel like it's okay, Mom, you know, to feel like they have to like lessen it. I'm like, no, I need to be able to sit with that, you know, and own it and let them know that I'm sorry and I will do better. And it is really powerful when our kids watch us mess up, even royally, like mess up really bad, and show them like I'm human, and that gives them permission in the future, should they decide to become parents, to know that it's so normal to not do everything right all the time, you know? Yeah. Okay, so moving on from challenges, now I would love to hear if we could all share what is one of your favorite things about being a parent?
The playtime, just immersion in play. The world is a fantastic place.
Oh,
Running and jumping and swimming and making inappropriate jokes.
yes.
all the time.
I love it. Yes.
All hilarious.
Mark, are you the kind of parent, do you like get in there and do imaginative play with Anna, or is that, you know?
I try.
Yeah.
I try. She stretches my brain.
Does she? I love that. They are so full of wonder, and there's so much that we have to learn. It helps us to slow down, and it's like their wonder can rub off on us if we let it, you know. This world is so hard so much, you know, and is so scary so often, that it's so great to get to be around our kids and let some of that rub off on us, you know.
Yep.
Oh, it sounds like Anna needs you.
I'm being paged.
Oh, okay. You go ahead. Do you want us to keep going, or do you want us to wait for you?
We'll keep going. He'll be
Okay.
back in a minute.
Okay, cool.
I'll just say really quickly, one of my favorite things is being able to be the comforter. Like, you know, when she's really sad or really struggling, being able to just put my arms around her and sing a song, or like, you know, you pull things out of your toolbox. If one doesn't work, you try something else. If that doesn't work, you try something else. But just that persistence and that perseverance to comfort, and then seeing that it really does make a difference. You know, and sometimes it doesn't make so much of as much of a difference as I hope.
Sure.
But you can tell, like, just even our kids knowing that we're there and we're trying, I think that does make it better.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't really make it better.
Yeah. It's at least, it's that withness, you know, that nearness, that being present with them, even though it doesn't change the problem or make the problem go away, but just them knowing that we're there. Yeah. That's really great. Amo, what about you?
I really think when I think of like the positives of parenting, both foster parenting and parenting my nieces, some of the greatest, like my moments of greatest joy has been when they've learned to take up space and to own their voice and to make a informed decision for themselves.
That's so good.
Just, I mean, even like my nieces, you know, coming from, you know, a background where, you know, mostly parenting themselves and not having a lot of options and choices, and, you know, just being told one thing and not really, you know, getting to, you know, have friends come over and things like that, giving them an opportunity to see good, normal, healthy things and understand that they can have that.
Yeah.
That they can expect good things from life and not always look for the other shoe to drop. And then with that comes their confidence. And I love watching their confidence grow. I love watching when they get, when both of them get out of school, I get to hear stories. And when they first came to live with me, I didn't get a lot of stories after school. It was mostly just quiet and listen to the radio. And now it's like they've been with me for about a year and a few months. And now when I pick them up from school, it's like, oh my gosh, I gotta tell you about what happened today. And I love it because they are taking up their space and they deserve that space. And seeing them grow in their confidence and ability to be open and vulnerable with people, I think is so, so powerful. And I find a lot of joy in that. That and all the TikToks that they show me.
Yes. They are so funny, aren't they? Like they're just, I am with you. I think like, especially like watching them become more and more of who they are is like, sometimes I just sit there and I'm just in awe. I'm like, we have these like little humans that are under our care that like we're getting to have a front row seat to who they're becoming and who God has designed them to be, and to like make their way in the world and figure out how the world works. And it's just I just feel so lucky, you know, that I like get to be a part of this, to have this front row seat to seeing them become exactly who God made them, you know, and it doesn't always look like what I thought it would. But just getting to see them become fully who they are is just like the best. It's the best. Yeah. Okay. So, because, you know, again, because this is church and, I want to bring in kind of a faith element to this conversation, because I think, you know, I think most everyone watching, either you are a Christian, or maybe you practice your faith differently, or maybe you're kind of checking things out and faith isn't a real big part of your life. But I think for a lot of us that are watching today, I would say faith is probably an element of your life. And so I think a lot of times parents are like, well, gosh, what does that look like raising our kids when it comes to faith? And so I would just love to hear you talk a little bit about, how do you approach conversations and ideas and kind of raising your kids? Because obviously, you know, the three of you are Christians. And so what does that look like for you as you're raising your kids? And how do you approach conversations and ideas about faith with your kiddos?
On a day-to-day basis, instead of if Anna does something that's inappropriate, instead of saying, well, that's not what God wants you to do, which is sort of how, you know, the message that I got growing up, to say, what would Jesus do if he was here? And how can we be, instead of focusing on the negative or the person who's causing the harm, to look up and ahead at, you know, what's the better way? And specifically about Jesus, like not just what's a better way, but what is the best way, because we've been shown the best way. I think also being frank and open about praying, not just the sort of canned prayers, you know, God is great, God is good, let us thank him for our food, amen, eat, right? But to let Anna in on our prayers. God, we're really scared about the Dexter is sick, or that the car needs fixing, or we're scared for a friend of ours who's really sick. And so she gets to hear us praying for the things that we really deeply care about in real language.
Yeah.
You know, God, it's me again, help.
Yeah.
You know, the frank prayers. And then also the prayers that are appropriate for her, because she's just gotten scared by something that somebody showed her at school, and now she has nightmares. And so we wake up and we go into her room and pray by her bedside about, you know, we know, God, we know that you're bigger than everything and anything in this world, and we know that you love us and you want us to be protected. And thank you for being with us, even when it's scary right now, that kind of thing. So trying to make the prayer specifically hers.
Yeah. That's so, I love that so much, of kind of reframing it, of instead of making her feel guilty or shame around making a choice that maybe wasn't the best thing for her or for someone else, but reframing it that way of like, well, what do you think? And it lets her think that through, of like, what do you think? What do you think Jesus would do? And that brings her into that. Gosh, it's so simple, but such a beautiful way to invite her in to that whole process. Like I love that so much. That's really beautiful.
I'm just going to second that answer.
Okay. That works. Amanda, what about you?
Yeah, I will say I don't think that either of my nieces have had any kind of real faith upbringing per se. I know when they lived with my mom when they were much younger, they kind of like hopped around to different churches, but they come to youth group every week, and so they are getting to hear some Bible stories in youth group for the first time. And thankfully, the stories that the curriculum that we use is really good at creating space for students to ask questions. And we do have a time of small group questions, and they get to not just answer with their thoughts, but also like ask other questions. And there will be some times when we're at home where they'll see a reference on TV or hear something, faith related, and they'll ask me questions about it. And I'll just say, well, this is what the Bible says, but then there are also, different ways to look at it if you look at the culture. And so really challenging them to have their first look at the Bible be one that's like a really all-inclusive, like not just taking it at face value, but understanding that, we are still learning things that have been discovered, that have been said in the Bible years later. Yeah. And, we're still, discovering things about history and about cultures and things like that. And so really letting them know that they don't have to have a right answer, and they don't have to agree with my answer. And I always make space for them. Like, this is what I think it is, but you can think, if you want to look at it on your own, or if you want help looking at it, we can talk it over some more. So really just giving them that. One of my favorite speakers is Reggie Joiner, and I remember this quote, and it has just stuck with me over the years. But he said, you can know God in an instant, but it will take you a lifetime to figure out what that means. Yeah. And I just think that is so important, because even the things that we are teaching kids in eKids, we'll teach them certain Bible stories to help them remember things. But when they move into, out of that sense of wonder and move into elementary, where it's more scientific thinking and like, I need to see it to believe it, they will interpret those Bible stories in a whole different way. And then when they move into middle school, when they're thinking like philosophers, and they're like, well, I think about it this way, and this is how I see it, it just changes with every phase of life that they're in. And I always want to say, this is what I think about it, and this is what I think it means, but I also know other people think this about it. But we can either talk about it together, we can research it together, or you can look it over and think about it for yourself. So I'm really big on leaving space for thoughts and questions.
Yeah, that's so good. And I feel like it has, I know in our house, especially as our kids have gotten older, I think that it gets a little trickier. But I think one really important thing that I think we have when it comes to faith is realizing that our kids' faith is their faith, and that ultimately, like, we can share our values. We can say, this is what, like you said, here's what I believe, here's how I see it, here's how I practice my faith. But ultimately, I don't have a lot of control over where their path takes them. And so I think, allowing them to ask lots of questions, no questions are off limits, allowing them to be wherever they are when it comes to faith, like, especially like with my two teenagers, both me with each one of them have very different ideas about faith and the world. We have some similarities, but we also have a lot of differences, and they're both different from each other too. So it's just really interesting. And I think sometimes as a parent, especially when we can sometimes have this fear that like, if we don't force our kids to believe certain things, we're afraid of what that means for them in the future. And so it's real easy to like have this really tight grip on it and to try to like force things on them out of fear. And I think one thing I'm learning is I have to let them figure things out. I'm here, to guide and to direct and to share my values, but ultimately, in our house, a lot of our faith conversations and the way that we do faith around here is just a very open invitation to ask as many questions as possible and to allow them space to, it's like however they see the world, whatever they're figuring out, like allowing them to be where they are and not trying to force them down any particular path, recognizing that their path is their path, So yeah, that's kind of how we've approached it lately in our house. So yeah. Okay. Should I go ahead and wait for Mark for the next question just so he can hear?
I think we got to keep
going.
Parenting is happening, so we got to just keep moving forward.
Okay. That's perfect. That is perfect. Okay, and then to kind of, as we're getting ready to wrap things up here, these aren't really so much questions as there were just a couple of final thoughts that I had kind of around parenting that I thought that could be helpful. One of these was one of Jenny's thoughts, and then I had one as well. But the first one is this. I wonder, because here's the thing, like, obviously we love our kids. We've talked about there's challenges. We've talked about our favorite parts about parenting. I think also, though, there's a lot of times where it's difficult to navigate times when maybe there's a lot of tension between you and your child, especially maybe as your child gets older and is developing their own ideas about the world. And when those clash with yours, that can be really tough. Sometimes there can be behavioral issues. Sometimes there can be maybe there can be differences in just the way we see the world. There can be times where maybe our kid is dealing with mental health issues. Maybe there can be across the gamut things that can make our relationship with our kids be really difficult. And so I wonder if you guys can just kind of talk about maybe some practices or things that you tell yourself, or how do you love your kids well when you're in the middle of one of those times where there feels like it's difficult or there's tension, or it's hard to get along with them? How do you still choose to love your kids well in those times?
I think for me, one of the most important things is I cannot respond out of anger. I mean, I need to give myself space to feel anger, which means I step away and I deal with those emotions and that frustration. And then I from a calm place, decide what the consequences of behavior will be. I can't choose those consequences out of anger.
Yeah.
I have to make space to get, to not be reacting.
Yeah.
It has to be, and you have to sort of decide what your plan is going to be in a moment when you have time to think. You've the quiet of an evening, or maybe the quiet moments are few and far between, but you have to come up with your plan when you're calm and when you're chill.
Yeah.
And you implement it in those moments that you might feel more frustrated or more angry, but you don't change your plan based on that frustration or that anger. You just go like, okay, this was the action. We chose these as the consequences. We communicated that clearly. We'll implement that. We're not going to make it, we're not going to make it heavier because we're feeling frustrated or angry.
Yeah.
So just really needing to, you have to take yourself in hand.
Yeah.
Because that frustration and anger can get away from you.
Yeah.
You have to take yourself in hand, and you might be the one who needs the timeout.
Yep.
And if you
100%.
I'm not you need the timeout.
Yep.
You know, take it.
I've had to put myself in timeout.
I will say, having been a foster parent and being involved in the lives of kids that have experienced trauma, they, no matter how I respond, there's always going to be a conflict of, you know, what's going to come next. Like, because I will try my best to stay calm. But if I'm like, okay, we're doing this, like I'm breathing good, I think we're talking it out, and then all of a sudden they go from 0 to 60, I am the worst at it because I will try to match, and I have to really, like in the moment, try to brace myself not to ramp up with them.
And it's so hard. It's so hard.
Absolutely. I cannot tell you how many times that I have like gone through a meltdown process, and at the end been like, I know grounding techniques. I have practiced them. I have done de-escalation training. I know what to do, and I did none of it. And why did I do none of it? And it's because in the moment, when you don't think it's going to go 0 to 60, you're like, okay, we're on a good path. We're talking it out. We're bringing our voices down. We're whispering. We're reminding them, I'm right here, you know, that type of stuff. And then all of a sudden, something happens and they just lose it. And you're like, I got to lose it too. And so there's been a lot of times where I've had to come in afterwards and, you know, apologize and say, I should not have raised my voice at you. That is not normal, and that is not healthy, and that is not the right response. You know, I am going to work on this for myself. I am going to take a break. I am going to go to my room and listen to music for a little bit. I am going to you know, XYZ, and it is not your fault. I just want to make sure that I'm not making it worse for you, because I know that because 9 times out of 10, their response isn't about anything I've done or said. 9 times out of 10, it's not about me. It is a breaking out of traumatic patterns. It is a breaking out of a fear. It is a psychosomatic response to the life that they have lived up to that point. And so I have to just be willing to model for them healthy apology, healthy understanding of, you know, this is why, like when I'm picking out, like, not like I'm picking out your consequence, but when I'm trying to create a healthy, you know, response to something that they did wrong. And I don't just mean like not picking up their clothes. I mean like, you know, something happened at school and, you know, the normal response is not only do you have at-home suspension, but I'm going to make you read a book about the issue that it was, and we're going to talk about it because I don't want you watching TV all day. We're going to talk about what happened and how we can make a better choice next time. And I think always giving them an opportunity to name for themselves. If in the moment they can't, like once I've apologized or even in the moment when I de-escalated, if I can say, hey, what can we do next time so it doesn't get so out of hand? And most of the time, you know, they'll come up with an idea. You know, I need you to give me space, or I need you to remind me, you know, to just go lay down and take a nap. You know, I just, you know, need this. And we'll talk about it. And so then the next time it's like, okay, we've talked about it. Do you need to take a nap? Do you need to take a break? And so I feel like it puts us on the same level, so they don't feel like I'm just trying to boss them around, but I'm working with them in what they've agreed to meet me in the middle with. And I think that's been very helpful for us. And I know I mentioned this to you in the email, Kelly, but I wanted to share with our viewers one thing that's been really helpful, and I'm going to put it on the parent resource website, on the ICON website, but it's the feelings wheel. So it's this wheel right here.
Oh,
and
that's
it, like,
great.
Like the broad feeling that kids feel, and then it gives you like a list of other emotions that go with it, so that they can
that's so
put a
good.
word to how they're feeling. And so when I'm working with the girls and I'm like, you sound frustrated, or you sound disappointed, or you sound agitated, and so giving them words to help them understand how they're feeling. You know, and it's been a big game changer for us for me to be able to say, like, it sounds to me like you're really frustrated with this teacher, or that you feel like you have been wronged and you feel like you were being discarded, and like really helping them name it so that when they feel that way again, they can have a better control on their response toward you.
Yeah. That's really, really, really good. Mark, do you have anything to add? We're just talking about like how do you best love your kids when it's difficult, when there's tension, when there's behavioral issues. Do you have any thoughts to add on that?
Jenny, I don't know what Jenny said. Probably she said what I would have already said. Be the person that we want her to become. If she's exploding at us, be the person who is responding calmly back, because that's what we want her to learn how to do, even when she's feeling frustrated, to feel the feelings, but to be able to express them in a way that's healthy.
Yeah, that's so good.
Something actually really that's been really helpful is how you want to let your kids feel their feelings. So like if she's feeling a feeling and destroying something, I say, okay, you need to stop something, stomp the floor, or you can put this pillow. Like I take that and I just redirect it toward, she can do the same action on another object and it doesn't hurt anything. Yeah. So instead of trying to squelch that expression, just put it in a different position. And there's some expression happening.
Right now.
There's some expression. I love this because it's just so appropriate. I feel like, it's like, this is life. This is parenting. This is what it looks like. Yeah. I think one thing for me that helps me in the really hard moments where I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, like there was one time where I literally out loud to my children, like something was happening. There was chaos ensuing as usual. And I literally looked at them and I was like, oh my God, who raised you? Like, I was like, you guys, what is happening? So like, but like in those, and we've had our fair share of like, there's the chaotic moments where things just feel wild. But then also that we have had some deeply difficult times, with some of our kids that we've walked through. And one thing that Dan says to me that helps bring me back to center, because I immediately go, oh my gosh, I go like 50 steps ahead of like thinking that this is how they're going to respond or behave or think forever. And so there's two things that we tell ourselves all the time. First one, their brain is not fully developed. Like we repeat that because it's like such a good reminder of like they are making choices and decisions with a brain that's not even fully developed yet. So we can't expect them to make a decision like an adult would because they're not an adult, and so we say that all the time. And then Dan always tells me too, he's like, Kelly, we are playing the long game. Like this is not like,
so good.
Like it's the long game. We don't like, so our kid did something really stupid. That doesn't mean that for the rest of their life, they're going to make bad choices for themselves. Like it's the long game. And so it's like, even if things are really hard right now, like that doesn't mean that it's going to be hard forever. And as long as we are consistent, we keep showing up, we apologize when we screw up, we like communicate with our kids and we're there and we're present, like then we're doing our best. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and also just so everyone knows, in the hosting slot after the video, I'm going to give you guys a whole bunch of resources just for, and we'll put them in the chat tomorrow, or we're recording on Friday. So we'll put them in the chat on Sunday morning for all of you. But I was listening to this podcast and there's this thing where they were talking about good enough parenting. And I'm like, yes, they're like, we've got to stop like putting so much pressure on ourselves for like perfection and say, no, it's good enough. Like it is good enough. And that should be enough for us, And so that was really helpful for me to hear that. I was like, oh yeah, okay. The goal is not perfection here. Like that is not the goal. So, And then to just kind of wrap everything up, there was a scripture that I wanted to talk about, and just as we're kind of closing out our time here, and it's one that I heard over and over and over again growing up. I've heard it anytime I would go to someone for advice when it came to parenting, I would hear it. But it's the proverb that says to train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I learned something so interesting about that proverb, that a lot of times I think we think train a child in the way he should go means we tell them what they need to do and how they need to live. And if we keep doing that over and over and over again, when they get older, they're going to follow the path that we want them to follow, that we think is best for them to follow. But actually in the Hebrew, the pronoun there is very personalized. So basically it's like saying, train a child in the way that particular child is supposed to go. So it's more of this idea of, who did God make this kid to be? And how do we help them continue to become more and more and more that person? Not so much we have to decide who they're going to be and train them and teach them right so that they live the way we think they're supposed to live, but more so seeing each child as an individual and allowing them to be fully themselves, and then kind of champion them and cheering them on into being their full selves. And I just thought, I was like, that's it right there. Like, that feels like parenting in a nutshell, because every kid is different. Every kid, what needs to be parented differently. And every kid are like, we kind of like, we get to be a part of their life, but like they're their own person. They're a full human, you know? And so I just wanted to kind of leave us with that, of just the importance of acknowledging who our kids are, and then as parents coming alongside them and allowing them to be fully who they are, not who we think they're supposed to be, you know? Do you guys have any additional thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Yeah, two. One is, I learned from a potter, if you continue to work clay, like we're supposed to mold children, that if you let them do what they are and just say, oh, that's just who they are, because they're hurting somebody else, that's not cool. You have to shape them.
Yeah.
But I learned from the potter, if you continue to work clay after it started to take its shape, you break it. So that's the same with kids. You shape them and shape them and shape them, but there's a point where you have to stop shaping, because that's who they are. And now you adapt to who they are, not who you think they ought to be.
That's really good. That's a great analogy. Good mental picture to take with us for sure. Oh, well,
Ditto.
yeah, no, that's great. And you know what? It's like we probably should wrap up for time's sake. But you guys, all of you, thank you. Like, I could almost like keep going and make this like 2 weeks worth, but everybody's tired, so we're not going to do that. But I appreciate you guys showing up. I appreciate you guys coming as you are and being vulnerable and being real and sharing your wisdom with us. I just know that it's going to be helpful for people watching today. And that's the whole goal, is for people to feel less alone and to feel like, you know, we have so much to learn from each other. And so I've learned so much from all of you. So thank you. Thank you guys all so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for inviting us.
Oh, how great are they, right? Gosh, just so many good insights, so much wisdom. I just still cannot, I'm just so grateful for all of their vulnerability and just this real talk that, again, you know, we're not doing these conversations so that we can like necessarily give answers or find, you know, definitive answers to our problems, but just to say, yeah, this is my experience, and this is what's worked, and this is what's hard, and for us to be able to come alongside each other and learn and grow together. So I promise I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but I did want to share some resources with you. One of my favorite things is resourcing people. I think that there's just so much good stuff out there that can help us. And I think sometimes we just need to be aware of what those things are. And so one of them I already put in the chat. It's a link to Icon's website. We have a whole section on parent resources that Amanda has put together. And included in that is the feelings wheel that she talked about, which I'm totally going to use that. That is such a genius idea. But it also has a lot of other resources. A lot of it is with, we use Orange is the name of the curriculum that we use for our kids and youth. And so they've been doing kids ministry and working alongside parents for decades and have just a wealth of wisdom in all of that. So you can just click on that link to the church website, and there's a ton of resources on there. Another one, I'm like going to sit here and kind of copy and paste into the chat. Okay. Sorry. Okay, this next one is called Just a Phase. It's a blog that Amanda recommended that she said is great, not only for parents, but also like it'd be great for anyone who works with kids. So teachers, kids ministry workers, daycare workers, anyone who even, if you have nieces and nephews, or if you're a grandparent, or anyone who has regular interaction with kiddos, she said that blog has a lot of really great information on there. And then this next link that I'm going to share with you. So Rob Bell is a author and speaker, and he actually has something that's called Launching Rockets, and it's not a book, it's not an audio book, but it's longer than a podcast. It's about a little under 3 hours long in its entirety, but it's basically 17 observations on being a parent, and this resource was a game changer for me. And I listened to it a few years ago, and then I listened to it again this week. So good. So it's kind of in the format of, he's just saying, here are 17 things that I have observed and learned while being a parent. And it's just fantastic and thought-provoking, and just really, really, really good. Okay, next I am going to put a link to a book that is called Bless This Mess. And the link I'm giving you is to Black Pearl Bookstore, which is a Black-owned bookstore in Austin. And so those are the links will take you there. But this is basically, this book is written by Reverend Molly Baskett and Ellen O'Donnell, PhD. It's basically a pastor and a child psychologist who are good friends teamed up and wrote this book together. So it's this awesome combination of how to, like, when you're raising your kids in the Christian faith, but then also bringing science into it and how their brain works and what's best for their development. And so I tried to finish the whole book this week before today. I didn't get through all of it, but I've gotten through about 2/3 of it, and it is fantastic and really, really helpful. And again, also on these resources, I just want to I feel like I need to say this because we're just people, and people can sometimes be weird about this, but I also want to be clear, like, all these resources that we're passing on to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that I or we as a leadership agree with every single thing that you will find in these resources. But as adults, that's part of it, is we kind of pick through and go, okay, this, I don't really agree with this, but this I really do. And now, as I was reading that book, there are some parts where I'm like, I don't really see it that way, but then there are so many good things about it. So just wanted to clarify that these resources, obviously you read them and then you kind of, if there's things that you don't agree with, I think that actually is good for us to read things that we don't necessarily agree with, because it pushes us and expands our brain and helps us to kind of see things from different perspectives. So there's that one. And then there is another book. And this book is called Parenting Forward. and it's by Cindy Wong Brandt. And so this would be good for you. Maybe if you find yourself, if you are parenting and maybe you used to be, come from like a real fundamentalist place in your faith, and maybe you've since kind of shifted away from that. And now you're going, how do I raise my kids to be curious and to be justice centered, and to, as they're making their way forward in the world, wanting to be just open-handed and inclusive. This would be a really, really great resource for you. And then let's see here. This next site, they have a podcast, and I believe there is also a book. And you can also follow them on social media, but it's called Parenting for Liberation. And this is a great resource for Black parents raising Black children. It really focuses on the unique challenges and the things that Black parents can face raising Black kiddos in America today. And so that's a really great resource for that. Another really great resource is if you are the parent of an LGBTQ kiddo, Q Christian Network is absolutely fantastic, and they have so many resources for parents to be able to come alongside their kids, to find kind of support systems with one another, because there are unique challenges that LGBTQ kids face that other cis straight kiddos don't face. And so as parents, we need all the help we can get anyway. So I would highly recommend checking out Q Christian for some great parenting resources when it comes to raising LGBTQ kiddos. And then I have two more to share with you, and these are more resources that we get to enjoy with our kids. One of them, it's called Holy Troublemakers and Unconventional Saints by Deneen Akers. It's basically a children's storybook about people of diverse faiths who rocked the religious boat on behalf of love and justice. So this is just, a great book to kind of read with your kids, to tell stories of people of all different faiths who have done really, really incredible work to make our world more just and more loving. And then lastly, this is a fairly new book, and I think that currently, like, they literally just had a Kickstarter and just created it, but it's called The Book of Belonging, and I believe right now they have a wait list for it because the demand was so high. But this is a storybook Bible that a couple of women came together and wrote because they realized that oftentimes in our kids' Bibles, there's not a lot of diversity. There's not a lot of, oftentimes we will find where all of the illustrations are of white people. And so, and also oftentimes there's not a lot of stories about women that we find in kids' Bibles. And so this book it's an updated story Bible for modern and mindful kids because everyone belongs. And so it has diversity. They include more stories about women from the scriptures, more diversity when it comes to race. It's inclusive. I don't have a copy yet, but I am definitely wanting to get one to share, especially with my youngest kiddo. So those are, I know it's a lot. There's like a lot of stuff on there. So if you need to if you want to click on those and save it in a tab, or even just kind of take a screenshot just so that you can later on go in and type in those web addresses to look into those resources, you can feel free to do that. And that is all we have for today. I know in 5 minutes at 11 o'clock, if you have kids, we'd love to invite you to hop on today for our eKids Connect crew, where they get to get on a Zoom call and connect with one another. So we'd love to have you hop on for that. But thank you so much all for joining us today, for sticking with us for these longer conversations. I hope that today was helpful for all of you, that you were able to find just some solidarity and find some encouragement and some helpful tools that you can put in your parenting tool belt for the future. So I love you all so much. I hope you have a fantastic week, and we will see you right back here next Sunday.